somebody that whenever I was going into college, I wanted to be a student athlete, and I never got to experience that side of things, but I'm curious just what the insights on how that kind of looks.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I'm on the cheer team here at Northwest. I've been on the cheer team since my freshman year, and to be a student athlete, a lot of people understand this, thankfully, but a lot of people don't understand that to be a student athlete, one of those words comes first, is student. So you got to show up to your classes, you got to take your tests, take it seriously, do your homework, and the people that don't do that, unfortunately, suffer. There have been a couple people that have been on the cheer team in the time that I've been here that didn't understand. They were absolute killers on the mat. They could throw stunts. They're great tumbling, but they just did not have that extra drive to go forth, to go to class, to do their homework, and it showed, unfortunately. And they're great people. I love them to death, but it's just unfortunate that happens. But as far as like the athlete portion of it, it's really just been a great time. It's a great way to stay out of trouble for me. Not that I would go out and I've never been much of a partier or anything like that, but just it's a good way to stay in shape, stay out of trouble, because you represent more than yourself. You represent your team, your coach, the sport, the university. So it's just a good form of responsibility, in my opinion.
Absolute party animal on the weekends. I know you're going out, going to shooters, breaking it down on the dance floor. Oh, man,
absolutely. The dance floor is just my favorite place to be. I mean, Flex, Church Clap, Copperhead Road, that's every weekend. That's me.
See, I call it more of the stand and wiggle your elbows and wiggle your shoulders, because whenever you get past midnight, literally, it just gets so shoulder to shoulder.
Smallest bar with the loudest music, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've never heard of a better way to describe that. It is literally the smallest bar with the loudest music.
Yeah, for real, dude. I mean, Powerhouse, say what you want about it. At least it's got, like, the room. I got friends who, like, work at Powerhouse, and the only time I'll be at Powerhouse is, like, right when they open, shoot a couple games of pool, I'm out of there. But unfortunately, I have been when there have been everybody and their moms there, like, on homecoming. And, yeah, it's just a nightmare.
Going back to talking about your time as a student athlete, why'd you choose cheer? Of all the sports coming up through high school and through your childhood and going into college, it was cheer. Could you give me a little bit of a background on that?
Yeah, so the summer before my senior year was COVID year, and there were two of my buddies. I'm going to give them a shout out. I don't know if they're listening or not, but Wade Wallace and Court Watkins, we were just hanging out at a bonfire, and they were on the cheer team in my high school, and they said, hey, you should show up at like 7 a.m. tomorrow just to throw some stunts. And I was like, okay, why not? Showed up, just got to see this kind of whole new kind of sport. And it just really kind of took me by surprise, and I decided I kind of want to do this. I kind of want to stick around, kind of want to get better, and then did it throughout high school. It wasn't great, but it was just a good thing to keep me active. And then I get to college, and one of the cheerleaders here at Northwest, Kelby Dressler, she kind of helped us throughout like a little home camp in that summer, and she kind of just said, hey, we need guys on the team. You should join. So I kind of showed up one day at practice, and I had known the coach. And I watched the practice, and I was thinking to myself, this is a lot. College cheer and high school cheer are so different. The skill levels are night and day. And I was just thinking, like, this is really intimidating, and I don't know if this is for me. And Henry walked up to me, and he goes, hey, what do you think? And I bold-faced lied to his face. I said, you know what? I'm probably pretty green right now, but I feel like with a lot of work, I could be pretty good. So he goes, okay, you're on the team. See you at practice next Thursday. And I was like, okay.
No tryout, just showing up.
Just showing
immediately,
up.
Hey, we need a guy. You're our guy.
Yeah. I mean, looking for guys in cheer is like a lot of the guys in cheer, like throughout all my teammates have like started in one sport and then didn't work out for them. They chose cheer. And it's just the way it goes. Like for me, it was cross country and track. For my roommate last year, it was baseball. For a couple of my coaches, it was football. Football's the common one because it puts you through to be strong, to like plant your feet in the ground, be sturdy, and that's kind of what cheer does as well. So that was kind of just where I found myself, and then just been here for the last couple of years, got to meet some incredible people, got to develop my skills, got to go do some pretty cool experiences, and the sport of cheer is now a part of me, and I don't think it is ever going to leave me completely. And so, yeah, that's kind of just where I'm at as a student athlete.
So what's it like being at one of those cheer competitions because I feel like we on the outside we always see videos of like the drama that goes on or like all the screaming and yelling and stuff. And what's it actually like to be at one of those?
Oh man, it is. It's surreal. It's you put in X amount of weeks of practice, blood, sweat, tears to put together this routine for 2.5 minutes, and 2.5 minutes is a long time to be on that mat and throwing stunts, doing tumbling in front of a worldwide audience. It's insane. But when you step on the mat and you see the bright lights, you don't really see the crowd because the bright lights are so bright. So all I was thinking was just, I've done this routine 100 times. I know what to do. I just have to do it. And obviously when things go wrong, you can't just sit and say, we got to do that again, because it is in the moment. It happened. On to the next thing. And unfortunately, we've had some experiences like that, but it teaches you, it builds character, absolutely. And it's a surreal moment. The adrenaline is it's just insane. I've never felt an adrenaline rush like that. And UCA Nationals for the last 2 years is where we've been competing. This year, we're going to be going to NCA Nationals, which is, it's in Daytona. It's in April instead of January. And UCA and NCA are basically the two big cheer corporations here in North America. And they ask for a little bit different things. UCA, which is the company that I work for in the summer, they ask for, hey, let's throw these awesome stunts. Let's be really cool, be really loud. NCA is a little bit more like kind of a show choir where they're like, there's motions, there's dances, you have to be really clean. So it's going to be interesting to go into Daytona with that type of, I don't want to say mentality, but with that type of game plan. So we've already got our nationals team. There's some really good athletes on our team, and we're just going to get geared up and ready to go.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Now, I got to ask.
Sure.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all time. This is a question that goes back and forth a lot. But 95% of the time, there's one answer. 5% it's another answer. But 95% it's Jurassic Park.
Okay,
And
what's the other 5% then?
Back to the Future.
Okay.
Just two movies that kind of just make me. Jurassic Park's not as much of a feel-good movie as Back to the Future, obviously. But Jurassic Park is the movie that I've probably seen more times than any other movie. And every time I watch it, I get something new out of it. Just like the different, because there's like obviously deeper meanings with like creation and playing God and such. But you can also just like turn that part of your brain off and watch it as like, hey, this is just a really cool movie where it starts off as a dinosaur amusement park and then it turns horrifying. So that's where I'm at with Jurassic Park at this point in my life.
I don't think I've ever looked at it that way. I guess if you actually do look into it, it is that playing God, creation, not messing with nature and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to lie. The last time I watched it, I was just thinking, man, there's some cool dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah.
Or, man, these special effects did not age that well.
You don't think so?
I think some of them, especially whenever you're looking like the, what's the long neck? I can't even remember.
Brachiosaur? I think it's Brachiosaur. I don't know.
Yeah,
I used to know these like the back of my hand.
It's whenever you're looking at that, I think it's the Triceratops that they have on the ground that they're treating and it's sick and everything. That's really good. That was practical effects.
Absolutely.
But then you look at the Brachiosaurus or those dinosaurs, you look up and it's like that kind of looks like I'm watching a cartoon, but
during more of the daylight scene, especially the one scene that sticks out to me is like one that really didn't age that well was the scene where Tim Lex and Dr. Grant are like walking up the hill and the Gallimimus herd are kind of running.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one. I'll give 100%. I'll give you that one. But for the most part, I thought a lot of the special effects like looked maybe not just as good now as they did in '93, but for the time and for how well like Jurassic Park still holds up to this day, like there are still like parents like showing their kids Jurassic Park just because it's got such a big scope and such wonder, while also having great characters, phenomenal score, and just, in my opinion, like obviously like we might get into this a little bit, but like for horror movies, like you talk about jump scares, right?
Yeah.
Jurassic Park has the best jump scare in cinematic history.
Which one?
So it's when the camera's going towards Ellie Sattler and she's like really happy. She says, "Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business." Velociraptor bursts through the door behind her. Horrifying. It completely catches you off guard. So Jurassic Park. I would not say it's a horror movie,
Yeah.
but it's kind of horror adjacent because dinosaurs eating people.
Well, I think people forget like the book. Now, of course, I haven't seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I haven't seen the movie in a while. I probably need to rewatch it. But like the book is a horror novel.
Absolutely.
And most people don't even realize it was a book. And if you think some of the stuff in the movie is a little bit graphic, of like the Tyrannosaurus grabbing the guy out of the outhouse or
yeah.
whatever, like some people are like, oh, that's a little too much with the blood dripping out of it. No, like the book was 10 times worse from what I've heard.
Absolutely.
Especially what's his face running away with the DNA.
Oh, Dennis Nedry?
Yeah, whenever he's running away, I've heard in the book like he gets mauled to death.
There's a great YouTube kind of narration illustration about that scene where he runs into the Dilophosaurus. It's horrific. And like the illustrations of it are just terrifying because it's kind of like black and white, but then when it's bloody, it's bright red. It's just, yeah, Jurassic Park the novel is another one that I've been kind of getting into books recently. I would love to read Jurassic Park the novel just to see how it contrasts with the film. And I know there's a lot of differences, but like I would just love to kind of get that perspective.
Yeah, I want to listen or not. I listen to a lot of books. I got to
yeah.
be honest. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I want to do Forrest Gump because I've heard the book is not that great, and the movie is one of those rare instances where the movie far outshines the book.
Yeah, it's a classic. How about you? What's your favorite movie?
I got to go with La La Land.
Yeah, I've not seen La La Land. I need to check it out.
I just love the movie, and I have some weird connections with it. Like I've watched it at multiple different points in my life, and the first time that I saw it, not to spoil anything, that a movie that's been out since 2016.
You're cool.
But I'm not going to spoil it for you because I think you need to experience it for your first time. But the ending is notoriously very depressing.
I've heard about that.
The more you watch it, the ending gets a lot, not happier, but a lot more sadly optimistic.
Okay.
Like it's a great ending, and especially after you watch it, it makes sense for the characters.
Sure.
And there's a massive montage at the end of it, which is really good. Montages normally aren't great, but in this movie, it's great. And just the very ending scenes, the two characters, I'm not gonna say it, but they share a moment, and it's like, dang. This movie made me bawl my eyes out.
Yeah.
And the first time that I watched it, I texted a buddy and I was like, hey, I wanted a feel-good movie. I'm going to watch La La Land. I've heard that's a feel-good movie. And he did not tell me, and he's seen it and refused to tell me that it wasn't. And after I finished watching it, I was like, dude, what the heck? Why didn't you tell me?
Right.
And he's like, well, I didn't want to like ruin it for you, but like I knew it wasn't a feel-good movie, and I found it in the $5 bin at Walmart, and I was like,
oh man, what
shoot.
are friends for?
He's the one that got me into movies, and I know throughout high school, I was kind of into movies. I'd always enjoyed watching them,
Sure.
but when it came to a lot of like the classics and stuff, he really got me into actually appreciating movies for what they are, and not necessarily just the entertainment aspect, but what makes a good film and different things like that. Yeah. And it kind of pushed me into this major. So like this major encapsulates a lot of different people, and I know you kind of found your way into this. You were undecided at first, and you kind of found your way into media. What was that journey like?
You know, to be honest, like media. Not necessarily media, because like in the day and age we live in, there's such a negative connotation towards media, and I think it's can be warranted. But like specifically with like content and production, that was more enticing to me than let's say journalism, media. So I got started. The first media class I took that is not a gen ed was professional media writing with Offit, and I had known Offit before because just through like youth group with his son, and just like I had job shadowed him like way back in the day. So just kind of getting to see like pick his brain about some certain things. It was just interesting. So I wanted to take a class with Offit, and then I was talking to some people and they said, you should try this. This could be like kind of down in your wheelhouse. So then that was what introduced me to like intro to mass media. And then Broad Ops is where I met you for the first time. And then our Broad Ops group, just that really kind of just brought it home. Like these types of people are the people that I would like to surround myself with. This is something that is interesting to me and I enjoy doing. So at the time, and to an extent now, less now, but at the time I still didn't know what I wanted to do in the major. I just knew I wanted to be involved somehow. And it was just enticing to me, and that's why I wanted to stick it out.
Our broad ops group was
Oh, my
crazy.
goodness. It was so fun.
You had the flow going. I do remember that.
Oh,
You had a
gosh.
flow going whenever you're in broad ops, always wearing the bandanas or headband.
It was not. Oh man, it was not pretty.
I mean, it wasn't about hairstyle. I'm always for longer hair. I'm growing my hair out again. I mean,
Yeah, but with my hairline, it just. I mean, it doesn't look bad now, but like when I grow my hair out.
Is that why you wore the bandanas always?
Yeah. It was just bad choice, and my mom only could tell me so many times before I said, "Okay, Mom, you win." let's. She used to call me what was it? She used to call me Swayze. Because Patrick Swayze.
Oh, Patrick! I was like Swayze.
Patrick
I was like,
Swayze
what?
in Point Break when he's got like the flow going.
Yeah.
I guess that was what she thought I was looking like. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, that broad ops group. What group were you in for the final? Were we in the same group for the?
Were you in the news or the comedy segments?
I was. Crap, we had it with your brother because
Yep.
so we were in
So
the
we were
same
in the same
group.
group.
Remember whenever the PowerPoint just completely failed and we had the guys.
Oh, yeah.
So
those props to them because they really they tried their best with little time. But hey, that's what live TV's for, right?
little did I know they're going to end up becoming. So we brought in some guys from the Teak chapter here at Northwest, and they were supposed to come in do a segment for the show that we were doing for a final. And whenever we had them set up in the studio, they're going to have a PowerPoint behind them. And they were going to go with the PowerPoint and talk about it. And whenever we wheeled the TV out there during the commercial break, the TV just would not turn on. So they were standing there awkwardly for a little bit. And I was like, cue them. I'm in the director's chair, like, cue them, tell them to talk.
Yeah, I felt
and
so bad.
they eventually started talking and we're kind of all over the place. Then the PowerPoint turned on. They tried to go back to that. We ran out of time. They closed it off.
Yeah, it was tough.
And I remember, and then I, of course, joined Teak a year later.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to them. They're like, yeah, that was a wild mess right there. But
It is what it is. I mean, it was so interesting to see like how different, because the way it worked was like we were split into two groups for the final, and it was just like 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was a 30-minute show.
30-minute end broadcast, do what you want. And it was just interesting. Like the group A wanted to go the traditional news route, whereas we kind of just said, let's just do something unorthodox and kind of weird. So we did like a comedy routine, and there was like just a bunch, like 5 different like 5-minute comedy segments. Like
it was Tinder with the Teaks.
And there was an exercise segment where it was just like a bunch of weird yoga.
We told
mats.
Logan to just improvise. He used improv during
and he did
that.
great at that. There was the weird. Okay, there was like the Between Two Ferns.
Yeah.
With Aaron and Dr.
And it was your
Walker.
dad.
Yeah, it was my dad. And I didn't know what to expect with that one, but it was not as funny as I thought it would be. But it was so.
Well, your dad was taking it really seriously. Like he wasn't playing it. He was like, yes. And
yeah, he's oh man, that guy. He's a fun fella.
I remember my first interaction with him, or not my first interaction with him, but I remember we would like always see each other, and you know he always has that resting, just straight like sergeant face,
Sergeant face, yeah.
It's like a military commander face,
bit,
and he just sits there like. And we were walking by, and I would always be like, hi. I was a little intimidated at first, obviously a freshman. And I remember we'd see each other in the gym, and he'd go, whenever we'd see each other now, he'd be like, how's your lift going? Did you hit legs today? What'd you hit today? And we started talking, and your dad, Dr. Walker's an interesting fella.
Yeah. He's a good fella. I like him.
Good dude. Always has a random movie on in his office during the days.
That's true. Sometimes he kind of operates through like the same like 10 movies I've come to notice, which is a good thing because like he's got
one
some
of them
solid
being
choices.
Man of Steel, because Man of Steel is
Really?
always on in his office.
Man of Steel?
I swear, Man of Steel. Superman is always on in his office.
I was gonna say like obviously Big Trouble in Little China would be his number one favorite,
That's his favorite movie
that's
of all
his
time.
favorite movie, and I
Heck
love it.
Yeah.
That's
a
Big
great
Trouble in Little
choice.
China. Big Trouble in Little China, Blazing Saddles is one, which I don't. That's one that I don't really see eye to eye with him on,
Yeah.
and not because it's like risque comedy. Blazing Saddles is like not even my favorite Mel Brooks movie.
I've only ever seen clips. I've never seen the full movie.
It's a funny movie, and I appreciate it because you couldn't make it today.
Yeah.
But like, it's just I don't know, never thought it was that funny. Gene Wilder's great, but he's better in Young Frankenstein, and I just think as a Mel Brooks movie, Spaceballs is funnier. But that may be just me being like biased because I'm a Star Wars fan. But yeah, just Big Trouble in Little China, Blazing Saddles, Last Samurai is one that he always likes to watch, which is a great one. Ghost in the Darkness.
He's going around, like, he's bouncing between everything whenever it comes to those. You know, talking about, like, movies with Blazing Saddles that could not be made today. My dad introduced me to a ton of his favorite comedies.
Oh, my
And,
goodness.
like, Revenge of the Nerds, such a wild movie.
Oh, definitely could not
Like,
be made today.
Revenge of the Nerds is a wild, especially... Not that it's not funny at all, but it's the fact that they just play off like this dude pretends to be this girl's boyfriend, and they do it,
Yeah,
and then
it's
it's
a
just
weird
like,
one.
oh, I'm in love with you now, and it's like, what are we talking about?
With Revenge of the Nerds, it's a weird one. So I used to date a girl, and like not super, but like very Christian, conservative, religious, you know, not like never going out and partying, never doing anything. And like her grandma, sweetest lady in the entire world. Favorite movie, Revenge of the Nerds. I was just like, I would never expect that from this woman. Like, of all these like great, like of all like the movies that we'd like watch as like families and stuff, like Revenge of the Nerds is her all-time favorite. And
Oh
I'm
my
just,
gosh. That's
okay.
one of those movies when it comes on TV, you can't not watch it though. Like you
goodness.
got to throw it on because it's like there's certain movies like that. Of course, with comedies, I think Animal House is one of them.
Animal House is one of my all-time
You got to watch
favorites.
Old School's one of them.
Old
You got to
School's
watch
great.
Old School. But like other movies, The Godfather, you got to watch The Godfather. Forrest Gump if
course.
it's on. You
Shawshank
got to watch.
Redemption.
Yeah, Shawshank. Like
Just all these like great classic movies, and then on the other side of that spectrum, Porky's, Revenge of the Nerds, and all these like crazy, just like raunchy comedies.
have you seen Porky's?
I've not, but I know about Porky's.
The first time I ever watched that, I think I was between like 12, 13. Like I was hitting that like prepubescent age and like
Yeah.
going into puberty, and my uncle wanted to get me into a ton of movies, and he goes, "Here, I'm going to give you a lot of movies. You need to watch these." So he gave me Stand By Me, great
Classic.
movie, still a classic. He gave me the original like It. So I watched that. I accidentally started with part 2 because it was a 2-sided DVD. So I was
they used to
really
do
confused
that.
at
Yeah.
first. But he gave me It. I watched that. Tales of the Crypt I never got to. He gave me a collection of.
Yeah, I never watched those.
I think it was a TV show.
It was a TV show,
with
and they
that
made-
little creepy like
Yeah, the
zombie
Crypt Keeper,
doll.
yeah.
Yeah. And then he gave me Animal House, which
Classic.
yeah,
Probably not for a 12-year-old, but,
For
you know.
12, 13, I guess you're getting into that age where you're like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
And then he gave me Porky's. And I remember watching Porky's, and I specifically remember the one scene everybody remembers it for, which is the shower
The shower
scene.
scene. Yeah.
And I remember watching that, and after we got through that scene, they went to the bar, got kicked out of the bar, and all that stuff. And my dad or mom, I remember hearing them come down the hallway to my room. There's a little corner right before you got into my room.
Right.
I immediately shut the TV off
Yep.
as soon as they got in
You
there
got-
because I was like,
that's-
how am I going to explain this? And of course, I was at the age where it's like all that stuff, like you should not be looking at that. I was like, I am going to get grounded forever, and it's going to be my Uncle Dave's fault.
That for me, that was the Jackass movies,
Oh man,
and I still love them to this day.
what's your favorite one?
I like Jackass number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, but all of them I really enjoy. I love the fact that they made this Jackass forever. I don't want them to make another one because I want the health and safety of these guys. But like, I just love that they came back for one last hoorah, and it made me in the theater. I was watching it with my brother. Like I've seldom laughed that hard in a theater. It was just laughter, and then just like feeling so bad that Steve-O is letting a hive of bees just swarm all over him. It was just, oh my goodness.
Did you see he's getting a boob job?
Steve-O?
Steve-O, yeah.
Oh my god!
He said he's gonna get fake. He's
Come
gonna get
on.
fake boobs for like a couple of. I think he said 3 months, and then he's gonna take them out just so he has them, so he can say he has them.
That's bro. Come on, Steve-O.
His stories are wild.
Yeah.
Like his little shorts are like shorts of him talking about his time on Jackass.
Yeah,
will
his YouTube
pop
channel is
up,
like really great. Like
yeah.
his story behind like a lot of like the injuries he's had, and a lot of like just kind of like some of the little offshoot stunts that he does, or like some of his mentality of going through X amount of stunts. Like it's honestly really fascinating, and it's why he's like probably my favorite member of the Jackass crew.
Yeah.
But like he still is doing, and he's supposed to be sober, and he's still doing some stupid stuff, like getting a tattoo on his face. I'm sure you've seen it.
I have not.
Oh,
Did he get the Mike Tyson tattoo on his face?
No.
Oh.
He got something really bad
Oh.
that's not safe for work on his face. Like, tattoo.
Oh, man.
That's not great.
I've never seen any of the Jackass movies. I know
Great.
watching like YouTube clips always come up of the different stunts and stuff they do. So I feel like I've seen some of them through those, but I've
Probably.
never actually sat down and watched them. I don't know why.
They're
I just
fun.
think it's
they're not, you're not going to get anything deep out of it, and it's not like rich cinema, but it's like just a fun like
it is peak cinema. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, it's
like
more cinematic than the MCU is nowadays. But like
Yeah.
like with Jackass, it's just like a fun camaraderie filled documentary of just like millionaires being idiots. And that's kind of why I like it. So yeah, I'm always a fan of the Jackass crew.
Where do you think the MCU fell off with that? Like, at what point? Because I would agree with you. You mentioned that. It's like, what point do you think things started to take that? I guess point of no return is kind of the right phrase I'm looking for, because I feel like after Endgame, a lot of people say where it falls off, but there's some bright spots. I like all the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, of course.
Moon Knight was great. I enjoyed Hawkeye because I like the character.
Shang-Chi, I thought was
Shang-Chi, phenomenal. But, like, what point do you think it's going to hit, like, the no return if it hasn't right now?
That's a really good question, because like I feel like it kind of already has for me personally, but obviously for a lot of people they're still wanting to go see it. But like also like with the point of it being like they're bringing back RDJ, and now they just announced the other day they're bringing back Chris Evans.
I did see that on Twitter.
Why would guys like it's like I understand money is great and money's a precious commodity, but you guys were in the biggest movies ever made. There's not I can't imagine you're like scrounging for work.
Yeah. Well, Chris Evans is. Have you seen his like list of movies after?
Yeah.
Because he's like, I want to do actual cinema. I want to do stuff after the MCU.
And then he did Red One with The Rock.
Yeah. What'd he do? He also did like the one with Ana de Armas where he's like a spy.
Ghosted or something like that.
Yeah, it was Ghosted.
Is that what it is?
Wasn't it like a? I haven't seen it. I just remember
it.
watching the trailer. It's like I think a dating like a super spy undercover.
Probably.
Like I think two super spies start dating each other or something. Like
I don't know. I would love to see Chris Evans kind of have like the career that Hugh Jackman kind of took.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying like he's, I know Hugh Jackman's like singer, songwriter, not songwriter, but like singer, dancer, theater, more apt for that. But like Hugh Jackman can be in Wolverine, but he can also turn right around and be in Prisoners.
Yeah.
So like something like a serious role, but like a different kind of serious role for Chris Evans, I feel like would be really good for his career. But like to kind of harp back to what we were talking about, point of no return, I just feel like with Avengers Endgame, like you had such a great ending and potential ending for the entire series, but I understand money needs to be made. But like we're scrounging for things like Hawkeye's the side character in his own show. And I love Haley Steinfeld. I liked the character of Kate Bishop, but like as many things that Hawkeye did right, they did a lot of things wrong. Bringing Wilson Fisk in as the villain and doing nothing with him.
Yeah, not even nothing. They nerfed him the entire show. Like, I get you want to bring him back in, and I did appreciate the connection between him and Echo. Mm-hmm. And I still haven't finished the Echo show. I need to get on it. I want to watch the first episode for Daredevil. And I didn't think her character was terrible, but you bring him in, and I like the connection there, but it should have ended at that. If you were not going to do anything with him, Yelena should have been the full-blown villain, the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Yelena's a great character. I also love Florence Pugh, and I liked Yelena and Black Widow. That was a highlight. Unpopular opinion, I enjoyed Black Widow for the first half of the movie. The first half of the movie blew by. First half was like it felt like Winter Soldier to me. It felt like that spy thriller, espionage. I loved it. And then the second half fell off. Mm-hmm. Don't even need to talk about Taskmaster. Everybody knows about that. Like Tony Masters getting absolutely destroyed like that.
He's a great character in the comics.
Oh my gosh.
Such an interesting, nuanced character.
Oh yeah.
And just completely just.
I wanted to see actual Tony Masters go against Moon Knight because their relationship in the comics. Have you ever seen that in the comics?
No, I haven't. Moon Knight's a character I haven't really gotten into in the comics, unfortunately.
So Moon Knight is the only character that Taskmaster refuses to mimic, because Moon Knight would rather die than dodge certain attacks, and like of course he can be revived because he's like possessed by the god. And Taskmaster can't, so he's like, I can't mimic you, dude.
No.
Like, I'm not just gonna take a hit, get my head knocked off, and then come back to life.
Yeah, another thing like with MCU, like where they went wrong, like, and I understand Disney is the biggest company in the world, and I understand that Disney has the biggest audience in the world, and I understand that Disney has to, I don't want to say pander, but like Disney's a family company and they try to make everybody happy, and that's fine, but when they try to quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And we'll take it back to like the early MCU, like 2014, you had Guardians of the Galaxy and you had Captain America, the Winter Soldier, arguably 2 of the top 5 best MCU movies.
I would 100% agree.
And then the year before, well, not as good, you had Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World. Not as good movies, but they still like were the average quality Marvel movies, and we were only getting 2 a year. When Christmas comes, like Christmas only comes once a year. So like with these new MCU movies, there's like 8 different ones every year, including shows. So like it's so much, you have superhero fatigue, and it bleeds over into like the DC movies, and just like I feel like audiences are starting to feel superhero fatigue, except for if it's like obviously Deadpool and Wolverine did phenomenal box office numbers because you brought back
top R-rated movie of all time.
Correct.
Like
and it deserved it.
Yeah,
I actually
100%.
thought it was because like I love, and it works to have the character like Deadpool in the MCU because of his meta kind of fourth wall breaks, because you can make fun of a lot of the things that can be poked fun at in the MCU, and it wouldn't be the same if Iron Man's making fun of them as opposed to if Deadpool's making fun of them, because he can poke fun at that because it's in his character's nature. Yeah. So I think Deadpool is going to be helpful for the MCU, but they have to be careful not to overuse him. Bring him in every once in a while.
Yeah.
In short spurts.
Yeah. I know they talked about whenever it comes to his movies and stuff like that, his solo movies were going to continue to be R-rated, but all of his like projects that he comes into are going to be PG-13 to open it up to those broader audiences still, which is a good idea.
No issue with that.
I'm very curious to see how they do it, because you can do Deadpool right, PG-13, because they did it on Disney XD whenever they're doing the animated series, because you can't say kill on Disney and like Disney Channel and stuff like that. So he would say, I think he said like stop their breathing or something like that.
Yeah, unalive them or something.
Yeah, and he came up with a funny way to say that. So I'm very curious, because I think it can work. But again, it's that superhero fatigue, and people don't want to see that stuff. Like The Boys is one of the most popular shows right now.
Fantastic.
And it's because it's nuanced. It's superheroes we haven't seen. It's not the same. They're going to save the day at the end, and they're going to do all this stuff. I mean, it's completely different. If you watch the end of like season 4, like
I haven't seen it yet.
It's crazy. And even season 3, because you've seen season 3, right?
Season 3.
Like even season 3, it's like nobody wins in the end of it. Like everybody is kind of screwed at the end of the show, and people it's new for people. I think the best movie, have you ever seen Bolt?
Yeah, the Disney movie.
Yeah, the little dog and all that.
Bolt.
I think Bolt does it perfectly, because they talk about in the show, he has the popular show, then it's like, we actually need him to lose at the end of the show to drive ratings. And it's true. Like that is genuinely one of the most
makes
true
it more
things.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it 100% makes it more interesting. So it's, because I would agree, the MCU, I don't know if there's necessarily a exact fall off point, but I would agree it's whenever they took that break, they took the year break after COVID production and all that stuff, started putting out a lot of shows that had no substance, but you had to watch the show in order to understand something and another thing, to where like previously you could go without watching Thor the Dark World. Thor the Dark World was, I think, the last MCU movie I ever watched, because I heard it wasn't great. I understood everything. Like, I completely understood everything, and I didn't have to watch that, and I think that's the problem now is you have all these shows to where there's a minimal detail that you have to watch in order to understand this one thing in another show.
I was worried about that when they announced that Disney Plus was going to be making Marvel shows. I worried about that exact thing. Like, do I want to watch... to understand what happens in Doctor Strange 2, do I have to watch an entire 9-episode series about 2 characters that I really don't care about that much? And I understand, like, I still have not seen WandaVision, but I've heard a lot of people like WandaVision.
It's pretty solid. I like the concept. It's very unique.
Yeah, and if they go about it that way, that's great. It's just I never cared about Wanda or Vision enough to watch a 9-episode show. Yeah. And even after watching Doctor Strange 2, which I still like, I know a lot of people don't.
But you're a Raimi guy.
I'm a huge Raimi guy, and that's why I like it. And that's because even though Marvel did it was a Marvel movie, they still let Sam Raimi be Sam Raimi, which I liked. So, and it was just cool to see that. But we can go down a whole rabbit hole talking about Doctor Strange too, because there's a lot of things I like about it, and there's some things I don't like about it. But
it's one of those movies that's very controversial within like that fan base.
Absolutely.
Because I enjoyed a lot of it. John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, as hyped up as it was, I did not like it because I could not see Jim. And I think he's a fantastic actor. Like A Quiet Place, he's
terrific.
Fantastic. But whenever he's trying to be serious in a role, you can tell he was obviously fan casted in. Everybody wanted to see him. It didn't necessarily work. Where I'm excited to see how Pedro Pascal does.
Yeah, me too. That's one
Pedro Pascal.
bright spot that I'm kind of anxious to see with this upcoming MCU is that I'm more excited for Fantastic Four and this new Daredevil show than I am for any other Marvel projects that's coming out in the next 5 years.
Yeah, especially did you see they're re-editing Captain America
Brave
again?
New World.
Yeah. After doing it last year because 3 audience screenings weren't great, so they added in Giancarlo Esposito's character last minute into a script that didn't already have him in it, and now they're still re-editing the show.
It's such a mess, and I feel bad because I like Anthony Mackie as an actor, but I just think it's just they have to. I understand. In the comic books, Sam Wilson gets Captain America's shield. Yeah. There are some things that work well in literature that don't work well on screen, and I feel like this could be one of them, and not because, like, Sam Wilson is... I just never thought Sam Wilson was just that interesting of a character. Even in his own show, never thought he was that interesting of a character. So I just feel like this is kind of a Hail Mary from Marvel.
100%.
So,
I think Bucky steals the show.
I do too.
Bucky is one of my favorite characters in the entire MCU.
He has nuance.
Oh, he does. And it's a perfect example of a redeemed character in that sense to where, like, have you seen Avatar, Last Airbender?
I have not. But are you going to talk about Zuko?
Yeah, Zuko is the perfect example, but I think Bucky's also up there as a perfect example of, like, he's a perfect redeemed character who did wrong in the past, recognized that, built it up, and now he's coming into Thunderbolts, which I found out kind of like shifting from, I guess, MCU talk entirely.
Sure.
One of the alum from Northwest is the one that's edited the Thunderbolts trailer and kind of doing their ad campaigns and stuff. It's Eric Mickelson, who does, I can't remember what company he works for, but we talked to him during Lambda meeting. We got to do a Zoom meeting and stuff. And he works out in Hollywood as a trailer editor. And his company that he works for did like the Furiosa trailer, did Thunderbolts.
I've heard about
have done a lot of massive movies. There's an entire list I could go through. And he even did some advertising for Deadpool and Wolverine, which is,
very cool.
Did you see that ad where like they're pulling out of the urinal or something like that?
Yes.
They edited that ad and made that advertisement, which absolutely crazy. I got to talk to him and I connect him with him. He's somebody that's definitely interesting. I want to bring him on here sometime.
Sure.
And just talk to him about kind of his experience there. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, it's cool to obviously, like, Will and Adam and a lot of people have talked about this, but it's like Northwest graduates, seeing like where they go and like seeing them succeed, like it puts the school in a better light, obviously, but it also like is a confidence booster to us as students, because like seeing Justin Ross go out into the world and in an industry that is notoriously tough to break into and but he's like involved with films that are well received by a lot of people and have some pretty big name actors like Clancy Brown. Mr. Krabs is in Mortuary. Oh, what's that movie called? Mortuary Collection.
On Shudder. It was one of Shudder's original launches was the Mortuary Collection.
And it's a great, solid horror movie. If you like anthology horror, which I like.
I love anthology horror, so.
Yeah, I really like it. And I thought Mortuary Collection did, like, anthology horror right. Whereas some, like, kind of horror movies don't. they just kind of get bogged out, like where it's like one story is really, really good and the rest of them kind of suck. The Mortuary Collection, all of them are interesting.
Okay.
So that's why it makes it good to watch. And knowing that Justin Ross is behind that makes it inspiring.
Yeah. I remember whenever we were talking in class, we got to see like the behind the scenes and like the what was it, the Kickstarter campaign? Him and his buddy did. Actually, if you go on the server, all the behind the scenes footage and all that stuff is on the server if you ever want to go look at it. I think it's under like class Mortuary Collection behind the scenes or like extras or something like that.
Gotcha.
Because my favorite thing is also going through and looking at the unreleased or unedited movie footage and being able to watch like, what was it? I think is it X-Men Origins, or it's either X-Men Origins or just Wolverine. The unedited Wolverine movie is on there with no CGI whatsoever.
Oh my goodness.
And it's so funny to watch. I remember scrolling to the end and watching some of it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just people like who are not involved in our major, the gap of like knowledge in between like seeing like making a movie, even if it's something super like that looks super simple, like a short film that we've been a part of. Dude, it takes a lot to do that.
Dude, that 70-hour short
it's
film
70
took all 70 hours.
Man.
Like, we slept a little bit, but I remember me and Luke were in the editing bay after we got done shooting. Me and Luke were in the editing bay from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, take a nap on the couch. It's a lot of fun. But
thank you guys for that. That was really cool for you guys to stick around.
Oh, don't even, you guys were killing it on set. Like, we couldn't have done it without y'all's help on set. I think it's a group project. It's not one thing where like one person does something better than the other. Because like Aaron spent all day making those VHS effects and stuff that looked fantastic on that footage. And then doing the editing with the eyes and all that stuff.
Yep.
And like we're talking about right now, we made a short film called Maury in 70 hours for a class project. We were given 70 hours and certain prompts and stuff that we had to include in the movie.
We had to write, shoot, and edit an entire like 8-minute short film, start to finish, in 70 hours.
Yeah, which was absolutely insane. And it gets down to the fact of like, why didn't you write it before? Well, we were given certain prompts. We had to include a certain character, a prop, and a line of dialogue. And that's probably the project I'm most proud of putting out here. Yeah. It's on the YouTube channel. If you go look Maury on the YouTube channel, that this should be on as well. It's fantastic film. Sal did great. The special effects that we did and like the practical effects, I thought all worked really well.
I did too.
That's definitely the project I'm most proud of putting out here, and it's given me that love for making horror movies because I had done it. I'd attempted it in the past. I've attempted it after. I guess the one I did after was more so of like a thriller than a horror movie. But
I gotcha.
I absolutely love the process of making horror movies. But also to that same point, you're talking about like that gap of knowledge, even in just movies, broadcasting and stuff like that. Because I know looking at random Instagram posts and it'll be like, oh, they randomly cut to this dude in the middle of a baseball game. How funny. And it's like, no, I know that control room was panicking. The director's like, take camera 4, and the TD accidentally hit camera 5, and he's like 4, and like some random dude is up there for a few seconds, and it turns into a joke. But at the same time, it's like the complication and the skill that it takes to do that.
Absolutely,
we see it on a small scale, but I couldn't imagine looking at like 50 camera screens.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was it? We were shown. I think it was like the Tonys or something. Neil Patrick Harris is.
Yeah, it was the Tonys because Neil Patrick Harris was on stage and the director was like directing to the beat,
cutting cameras every half second, and it is phenomenal. Like that scale of like production, and like say like that scale of production compared to like what we do, like it's obviously very different, but like on the scale of what we do, it's just gives us even the slightest appreciation for the craft that we're doing. And then just when we see it on like the big scale where it's like a different award show or a different baseball game, like especially like the Super Bowl, cutting between like, I think I heard somewhere there was like 500 cameras in total at this last Super Bowl.
I couldn't imagine. Oh my
gosh.
Because I direct a lot of the stuff. That's what I enjoy doing. It's like, I think looking at we have 12 cameras during like basketball games during the NCAA tournament a few years ago. that was a little overwhelming. And then, of course, you get into like the flow of this camera needs to be that.
Yeah.
I could imagine there has to be multiple directors, or there has to be like okay, whenever we do this, we're going to this exact sequence. He can just pull out the binder page that says this exact sequence. I could not imagine that process. Like,
it's so
it would be
intimidating
insane.
and daunting, dude. I mean, like I'm just most of the time, like during like live productions, I'm not even doing like switcher or audio or anything like that. But like just hearing all the things go on, I'm always kind of nervous. Like, what if something happens? You know, like what if something goes wrong and we gotta like kind of panic? But
I don't know. You kill it at audio. Whenever we're filming Bearcat Update, I mean, you're always on top. You know exactly what we need to do. You always kill it.
yeah,
so
there's a few times where I've
give yourself a little bit of credit.
yeah, you know, I mean, it is what it is. I enjoy doing it. I'm having fun doing it, and I would like to stay with audio just because it's something that I'm familiar with. But it was honestly the thing I was most intimidated by was like the audio board, because I remember being on last season for Bearcat Update. I was switcher a lot, and then our audio guy was like gone for like 2 weeks, and they had to throw me in on audio like on like an hour notice, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
And look at you now. I mean,
I
you're
guess,
killing
yeah.
it. Bearcat Update, what was the third best studio sports show?
I think so.
Or
Yeah.
third best college sports production in the nation? Like,
Something like
cool.
that. Yeah, it's cool
throw
to
your name on that. Being on audio, controlling all the audio for that, that's
yeah,
sweet.
definitely a good little resume builder there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Bearcat Update's a good time. The things that I've learned through this major, it's really just extremely educational. I love being in this major and like just kind of learning something new, trying to learn something new every day, whether that's in a certain class or just like being around certain people, or even if it's something different, like learning like what different lens would work best for a certain shot. It's just fun for me. Like this major is great.
What are you hoping to do after with it?
I still don't even really know. Just I'd like to be involved in video production in some scenario, like whether that could be like working for sports behind the camera or on camera interview somebody. I'd have to work a little bit harder for that, but that's okay. For now, I think what I'm shooting for post college is obviously we're going to be taking senior STEM, and we're going to be going through like resumes and portfolios, demo reels, and like applying for jobs. But I think honestly the plan right out of college is, so for the summer I'm going to stick with working for UCA, going around a bunch of cheer camps and like kind of just teaching a couple kids how to cheer. And then like post that, I think I'll probably just like stay on the side, like try to like look for like, I don't know. My mom was talking about like just look for like different like clients for like shooting video, kind of like footage or like for pictures and such. Like to give you an example, my mom's school like did a fundraiser to like try to rebuild a lot of their hallways and such.
Yeah.
And they hired a video guy to come in and shoot a bunch of B-roll and then cut together like the most easily editable clip. And like apparently it was just like the biggest success, and like they raised a whole bunch of money.
Heck yeah.
So just something like that I feel like could be in my wheelhouse until like I get like a bigger opportunity somewhere down the line.
Yeah, you never know where you're going to end up
Absolutely,
with that, especially like we talked about the connections. Just being at this university, having those it's pretty great. I mean,
yeah,
I got
awesome.
to work for the Iowa Cubs last year not because of a connection, but I know like Adam helped set me up with an interview with with Matt Evers, who he worked with whenever he was an intern at the Cubs, and now Matt's the director of that. Adam's obviously a professor at the university, and just that connection there, I got a chance to interview with that, got to spend a summer with the Iowa Cubs. That's something that I never imagined being able to do. I thought I was going to have to work like a summer job every single summer and different stuff like that. So,
but the experience is good for yourself, and also you probably get to learn a lot more, like just about like responsibilities in life, as well as like learning through like your technical skills for the job that you want.
Oh yeah, it was great working in an actual professional sense, because most of the time the videos we were doing were just for the in-house like video board and stuff like that. But about once, twice, maybe 3 times a week, we do a broadcast on the Marquee Sports Network, which is where the Chicago Cubs broadcast all of their games. So they would pick up a game or two every single week. Getting to direct a game or do replay for a game like that, do even just camera work for a game like that was super nerve-wracking, but it was fun learning that stuff, because I know normally we weren't able to actually like listen to what was being needed and all that stuff, but I know Matt let me throw on the headset one time while he let me direct so I could hear what the broadcasters were talking about, so I could go, okay, they're saying it, I need to show it on the screen. So if they're talking about a certain player, like Owen Casey, if they were talking about Owen Casey, I could be like, okay, camera 2, give me an ISO shot of right fielder Owen Casey. They could talk about him, throw up a graphic if they needed. Then we could come back to game action. It was just simple things like that. Being able to learn that actual professional side that sometimes we get whenever we're here on campus. But even with like the football games, the broadcasters are going based off of what we're saying or what we're showing versus like what they want to talk about specifically. It was a cool experience working this summer.
To kind of like sway conversations, I'm kind of curious. So the last football game, Titantron.
Yeah.
What happened with that?
Oh, so and he's referencing the video board at our last football game. And I think I have footage I can throw up right here. Just completely died. Mm-hmm. So we have a massive video board. It completely died, completely went black in the middle of the game, except for one pixel in the very top right.
I was like, what is that?
We were all freaking out about it. My phone was blowing up with people like, what's going on with the video board? What's going on with the video board? Ugh. Well, I'm trying to direct a game because it's also on the MIAA network. So it's like, I'm having to direct a game. We're trying to figure that out. But what people don't realize, before that, the stream for the MIAA network shut down. The computer streaming it completely shut down. Luckily, we were locked off on like the high tight or the high wide camera.
Sure.
So I just had to be like, Killian, make sure you act live this entire game. But the video board shut off. We were trying to fix the computer. Got the computer fixed. Went and fixed the video board. Power supply just died. Well, the extra power supply they had, brand new in the box, was dead on arrival, so it was DOA. They plugged it in, didn't work. So they were scrounging around trying to find things, had to shut off the entire system to see if they could reboot it and stuff. So the clock died, and this is a rivalry game.
I remember when the clock died, I was like,
yeah, this is rivalry week. Like, we're playing Pitt State, Northwest Missouri State, Pitt State, massive Division II rivalry.
It was a big game, big crowd.
Yeah, two of the most well-known and well-respected football programs in Division II. Yep. And it shut down in the middle of this game. So we eventually, Adam was like, put my graphic on, like put the button on so I can throw graphics on. And he put a little graphic at the top right of the screen that says, "We know," so people didn't think we weren't caring about the video board.
I didn't know that.
Well, in like the Rogers Pharmacy replay, it was like replay, and it said something in that top right whenever it was replaying. It was like, look. Or it said, look, Rogers Pharmacy replay, or look, replay. And it was like, look, we know, whenever it would go back to the normal stream. And it's like,
oh my goodness.
It was insane trying to work that, because I know I had a GoPro on that game. I was trying to get some footage so I could do like a POV, you're working this football game and stuff. And that was crazy, because it was the last game I'm probably ever going to get to direct of football, which massive, like, extremely cool experience.
Absolutely.
But it was fun. We had every issue thrown at us, and we got through it, which was amazing.
It only took about 5 minutes.
I think
a little bit longer.
I think it took 10 to 15.
10 to 15?
Because they had to stop the game for 5-10 minutes, and then the coaches agreed they had another clock they could run off of.
Yeah,
so they did that.
I guess I'm thinking of 5 minutes on the game clock, which would be 15 minutes in real time.
Yeah, it was going into the third quarter or something like that?
No, it was the second quarter.
Yeah, going into the second quarter, because it was very beginning.
Yeah, because I remember we a lot of the cheerleaders, we kind of look at the band. Because we kind of we stunt when the band plays.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. And then we kind of watch for the band to kind of trickle out of their stadium seats to come on the sidelines. And then that's kind of our cue to be like, okay, no more stunts. And we were just thinking when are they going to walk down? Because we kind of don't know. But, yeah, it was a crazy experience, but it didn't.
I was about to say, what was your point of view on the field whenever you saw that?
Where'd they go? I was just like, what happened?
We actually just all quit in the middle of the game. We were like, you know what? We don't want to do this anymore. We're all going to quit
we're getting paid a day off. I just remember I was talking to Blake, and Blake said he saw Will Murphy kind of just run somewhere.
Yep.
And he was like, then that must mean that this is last resort to get Will.
Yeah, Will ended up back in the video board, and he sent us a video from back there, because what you see, it looks like a solid board. Those are actually just mesh, sound screens, so you can put the speakers behind it. So he was showing us. He was at the very top showing down on the field from the video board. I'm like, that's terrifying being back there.
Will Murphy, man, he is one of the most interesting people that I've met since being here.
Oh, yeah.
Just the most random example of this. The other day I was playing chess in Wells on my computer, and and I said something about it. Will whips out his phone and pulls up. He handmade a chessboard and handmade pieces so he could teach his sons how to play chess. And I was like, that's like the coolest thing. And the pieces look great.
Yeah.
They're like, they look custom made. They're super awesome. Like, I would actually want to play chess with that chessboard.
Yeah.
Super interesting guy.
He's the reason I actually ended up here. Is I was on a tour, and the tour guide or whoever it was and the recruiter actually reached out to him because they saw like Eldon, and I was a media student.
Yeah.
And he saw, hey, I saw you were from Eldon. My wife's from Eldon. And he's like, your last name's Holland. Do you know a Betty Holland by chance? Which is my grandma. And he's like, well, my wife was in school when your grandma was a teacher at school.
Oh, that's cool.
So that connection was there, and he's like, hey, I see you're coming for like media. How about you cut your tour short and you just come work the football game with us and come and video and do the football game with us? So my tour, I actually did not get to see Wells Hall during my tour.
At all?
I think I saw it once or twice, but I didn't get to see the TV studio, didn't get to see any of that stuff. I got to instead go to the football game. I didn't get to see HP either. I didn't get to see the rooms or anything. Because the game was going on during the tour time, so we wanted to get to the game, so we had to cut it short as we were walking to HP, so we ended up going over there, and that's actually how I got my job on Catvision, the camera crew, is because there were a group of seniors, it was senior day, who decided it'd be fun to jump in the elevator with like 200 pounds worth of equipment and like 3 or 4 of them. So they jumped, they got stuck in the elevator, and Will I remember saying, he's like, yeah, you did this at your high school, right? I was like, yeah. He said, okay, if they're not out of here in 10 or 15 minutes, me and you are going down and taking over the cameras. I'll walk you through it on the headset. I was like, okay, sure, let's do it.
Why not?
And he told me, he's like, from that moment forward, you were hired because you were just like, sure, let's do it.
Willing to go and just do it. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, why would you jump in an elevator with equipment that's not yours? Yeah. That's stupid, but,
Seniors. It was their last day.
Guess,
It was a bunch of
yeah,
seniors.
but, man, that's so stupid.
So nerve-wracking.
I bet.
There's so much of this equipment that I'm like, I'm not even going to, like, throw it in my car. I don't want to bounce around in my car.
When you know how much, in hindsight, when you know how much it is, like when Will's talking through it, like lectures in AVP or just like random Google search, just how much is FX30, and it's just like you see the number and you're just like,
yeah,
if this breaks, big trouble. Thankfully, knock on wood, never broken anything, never lost anything here that I've checked out. But I know people
knock
who
on
have.
wood. Hey, still got.
I know. I still got
now
a semester.
2 semesters. I mean, are you graduating in the spring?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got a semester of me left.
I got a semester
to deal with. So I think we're sitting at close to $400,000 in the equipment checkout now, worth of equipment, which is crazy.
So crazy.
There's so much stuff. I don't even know we have some of the stuff back there. It's like, oh yeah, did you know we have this? I'm like, no. Or I'll just discover some one day. I'm like, what does this thing do? And Will will tell me, and it's like, dude, I didn't know we had this back there.
It's so insane. But it's like great that we have, and I love that Northwest lets us, obviously, like they kind of do a pretty good job of putting the fear of God in us, but they say, hey, we're willing to let you have this for a night, get your stuff done, bring it back in one piece, we're all good. I love that we have that freedom to do that stuff. Like, it's really cool, and I know a lot of universities don't do that.
Yeah. I remember whenever I toured Mizzou, and this is like no shade to them at all, but I didn't end up, that was one of the reasons I didn't want to go there, is because they had their equipment checkout, and you had to have like a written note from your professor that says you can check out equipment. It could only be checked out that day via your professor noting it for the class, and you had to return it. You had to use all their equipment. You couldn't even use your own SD cards in the equipment.
What?
And you had to use all of their stuff. And that was one of the things I didn't enjoy. And then I remember
having those restraints.
Yeah, Will talking to me about all the equipment here and stuff like that. It was super cool just knowing that I had the freedom to do that. Speaking of the equipment I found, do you remember those little those tiny microphones that we talked about in AVP and like TV directing, or not TV directing, Digiten, like the tiny ones that you can put in that are like maybe that big, like microphones that are like that big around?
I think so.
We have one in there.
Do?
I just randomly found it in one of the boxes mixed up with some cables. It was one of the mic head. It's a Rode one. Is about that big around, and the mic itself is about that tall, that big around, and the cable's long enough. Like it's one you could I could put on the inside
I was
of my
gonna say it's
glasses
small
right
enough you
here.
can kind of fit it in like a little nook and cranny.
Yeah, I could put it on the inside of my glasses. If like we were filming like a scene right here, I could
Sure.
put it right here. I could put it like right here next to this mic and stuff like that. So
Man, like I just feel like it's so crazy, like how far we can, like how much we can do, like with their equipment, like making mics that small, putting cameras that are that small, just like different kind of like equipment that we made on such a small scale.
Yeah.
But like it's just, to me, it scares me because like I have a big fear of like breaking things. So I feel like let's say it's right here, I'll just random chance just accidentally smash it.
yeah,
And that's why I feel like I would be better suited with just like the kind of equipment that I already try out or that I already check out. But it is nice to have kind of that extra kind of help with kind of the equipment that is that small.
yeah,
I don't know, just something that I thought of.
yeah. That is all the time that we have for the video portion of this podcast right now. So I'm going to keep talking to Jake about comedy, kind of his enjoyment, what some of his favorite comedians are. So if you want to talk comedy, hear us talk about that and some more things, make sure you bounce on over to Spotify. It's under the same name, Front Office to Box Office, and we'll see you over there. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube.